All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are going to slice into a question that honestly trips up just about everyone when they're starting out in finance. What is the real difference between a stock and a share? You hear them used interchangeably all the time, but getting this right, it's key. So let's break it down. So let's get right to it. Is there really a difference? If you've ever paused and wondered about that, hey, you are not alone. It's super common. And while you'll hear people swap these terms in casual conversation, knowing the actual distinction is kind of like your first step to really speaking the language of investing. I promise, by the end of this, it's all going to be crystal clear. Okay, so let's start with the big picture here. We've got to understand the concept of stock first. Think of this as the general overarching term. Getting this right is the foundation for everything else that follows. And to make this incredibly simple, we're going to use one central analogy that's going to stick with us. A cake. Seriously, just picture a whole cake sitting on a table. This simple image is going to be our guide for the rest of this explainer. So what is stock? Well, in our analogy, stock is the entire cake, the whole thing. It represents all the ownership equity in a company. When you hear people talk about a company's stock, they're talking about the whole pie, every bit of ownership that exists. And here's how you actually hear it used correctly in the wild. Someone might say, I'm investing in the stock market because they're talking about the whole system. Or, I own stock in Apple and Microsoft. See how that's a general statement? You're just saying you own a piece of those companies. The key here is that you're speaking broadly. Okay, so we've got the entire cake defined, but how do you actually own a piece of it? Well, that brings us down to the single unit of ownership, and this is where we get to define what a share really is. A share is, quite simply, one single countable unit of that company's stock. So, let's go back to our analogy. If the stock is the entire cake, then a share is one single slice. It's the smallest individual piece of ownership you can actually hold in your hand. Well, figuratively. And this is where the grammar of investing really, really matters. You would correctly say, I own 100 shares of Apple, right? Because you can count the individual slices. You would never ever say, I own 100 stocks of Apple. I mean, that would be like claiming you own 100 entire Apple-flavored cakes, which just doesn't make any sense. So we've got the general concept, and we've got the specific unit. Now, to make this distinction just perfectly clear, let's put them side by side. This is where it all really comes into focus. Looking at them like this, the difference is so clear, right? Stock is the general asset, the whole idea of ownership. A share is the specific, single unit of that asset. Conceptually, think of stock as the type of thing you own, while a share is the individual piece you can actually count. And that's why the scope is so different. Stock is broad and general, and a share is narrow and specific. Let's just bring it back one more time to our core visual. Stock is the entire company's equity, the whole cake. A share is a single unit of that stock, one slice. The key takeaway, the thing to remember, is the relationship. You buy individual shares of a company's stock. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, I get it, but does this technicality really matter? And the answer is a big, fat yes. It absolutely does. Using the right word isn't just about sounding smart. It's about being clear and precise. There's a line from our source material that sums this up just perfectly. You measure your purchase in slices, shares, but you are buying from the whole cake, stock. That one sentence, it just captures the entire relationship perfectly. Ultimately, this is not about being picky with words. It's about showing that you've got clarity and confidence. Why? Because each share carries specific rights with it, like a vote at the annual meeting or a claim on a dividend payment. The general concept of stock doesn't have that level of detail. So whether you're talking to a financial advisor or just your friends, using these terms the right way signals that you really get the fundamental building blocks of investing. And there you have it. It's the simple difference between the whole cake and a single slice. Now, you've got the recipe for telling stock from shares, which of course leaves just one question for us. What other financial jargon should we slice into next? Let us know.